first up we have the wonderful Jessica Rose talking. Jess is a self-taught technologist obsessed with working to foster more equal access into the technology arena. Currently, she works with DreamFactory to help them better reach developer communities with their open source project. She's also founded the Open Code Meetup series and co-founded Transcode. Jessie's a wonderful person. I've met her a couple of times. She's bubbly and amazing and really smart, and I definitely encourage you to get in touch with her later on to say hi and learn some things. She's really cool. Today, Jess's talk, Reuse All the APIs, basically building for the web or the mobile involves dealing with a whole bunch of APIs, pulling them all together, all these data sources in a secure and stable fashion. Writing all these APIs to connect everything is great, but it doesn't scale. Faced with this problem at her own work at DreamFactory, they had to work to create an open source platform to generate this secure, reusable APIs for use in front-end development, your mobile Internet of Things applications. Jess is going to go through some of the history of how and why they built these APIs and how you can incorporate these usable APIs into your own projects. So without further ado, Jessica Rose.
So that's, it's going to be a lot like that, sorry. So I would like you to take all of the expectations that you've had wonderfully built up and just sort of scale those back, just roll those back maybe 50, 60, 70%. To give you a little bit of background, I am, again, Jessica Rose, and I worked in education for a long time before moving into technology and focusing on really open source technologies. I'm super, super into the idea that development is something we should be able to do as individuals, as small companies, as small teams, as open source projects. And I really like the idea that that doesn't have to be married to a place. I think a lot of times when the world looks at technology, what they're often using it as a shorthand of saying Silicon Valley or San Francisco, which is great, but not really the kind of technology I like to think about. I like to think about technology as something where it's really accessible, that anybody with a little bit of time to invest in the skill set can go ahead and put this together. You might be able to tell by the goofy accent, I'm American and living in the UK at the moment. So I spend a lot of time apologizing, and that's really convenient right now because I am so savagely jet lagged. I lived in Japan for a long time, and now I live in Europe. I meet Australians over there, and y'all are like, oh, the flight, it's really long. And I don't think I fully believed you guys. Because I was like, no, I fly over to Japan all the time. It's fine. I'm just going to get off the plane, and I may or may not have had a cry at the airport. Like, it's a solid 20 hours of pain. Thank you all for ever getting anywhere. I have no idea how you do it. Because I am so savagely, soul-destroyingly jet-lagged. Has anybody seen one of my talks before? Oh, cool. Again, scale your expectations way down. I'm going to be at least 40% less chipper than I usually am. I'm also going to go ahead and skip the question and answer session. A, so I don't cry, and B, because if somebody put up the whole, this is more of a comment, I would go to jail at this point. If you do have any questions, I want to be super sure that I'm able to answer them for you. So my personal Twitter handle's here, and my DMs are open. So if you just have a quick question or want to have a chat, that's a really good way. If you want to tell me I'm wrong or dumb, you don't take a picture of this if you want to tell me I'm wrong or dumb. If you want more formal chat, go ahead and pop me an email. And if you want to tell my work that I showed up really, really, really jet-lagged and still smiled, it's a good one to do it. So I'm here to talk to you about DreamFactory, which is an open source project. And I know, so who here is feeling really good to be awake and at a thing at 9 a.m. on a Friday? Oh, you shut up. Y'all are a little bit chirpier than I am and a little bit happier, so I'm gonna. So if you want to get your computers out or get your phones out and sort of tune out a little bit, the TLDR of this is DreamFactory is an open source platform that magically makes REST APIs. And I've been told by the Home Office to stop saying that it's magic. So our platform's actually built in Laravel, which I think is really, really cool, and often mistaken for magic because I'm not very good at it. I mentioned before that I used to be a teacher before I started working in technology. And my talks generally have a small amount of interactivity. Just when I was a teacher, I really loved the contempt in the eyes of my students when I asked them to do something. And I love to make technology audience just like and freak out, wondering whether or not I'm going to ask them a question. So has anybody heard of DreamFactory before? Yeah. There's all like 4 of you. Cool. If anybody from work is watching, this is a sign that you probably need to send me to Australia more. With longer layovers, please. Cool. Has anybody who's heard of it used it? Working in developer relations, I get a really great chance to talk too much. But one of my favorite things is getting to listen to people about what they're building. So DreamFactory is a platform that lets you automatically generate REST APIs. I'm going to have you yell at me. What are you making? So side projects at work, something you're hacking together or pulling apart. What are you making using REST APIs right now? Oh, don't make me call on you. Yeah, I'm not your mom. I'm not your teacher. I'm not going to make you raise your hand. Just yell at me. Stats Match Center. Yeah. Is it awesome? Yeah, it's awesome. Anybody else building something cool? Carpooling. Really? I'm going to come ask you too many questions about that. Sorry. Anybody else building something cool? Or built something cool? You can do past tense. I hate to make this a bit teachery, but this side of the class is doing a very good job. Anybody else building cool stuff with REST APIs at the moment? Nobody's doing any Internet of Things with APIs. And I know that getting stuff that's kind of product heavy at conferences can be really boring, so I'll race through it and affably try and live demo, which should end badly and be really fun. But DreamFactory is just a REST API platform that lets you generate REST APIs at scale. I'll keep the sort of product pitch very, very short because being an open source project, it's free. It's one of the things where if you need to generate a lot of REST API, it could be a really good fit for your projects. We do have an enterprise product, but realistically, almost everybody who wants to have a play with it will never have to pay for it. I love saying that because it's maybe 7, 8 at night back at the home office. And whenever I say that, I know that the sales guys always get all cold and clammy and don't know why. The big part of DreamFactory is this cool orange bit in the middle. So you've got the core functionality where it's auto-generating REST API. And you've got some scripting and customization. So we genuinely love APIs. We don't think that we're going to replace artisanal, handcrafted, bespoke APIs anytime soon, or probably anytime ever. So recognizing that you're still going to need to write your own APIs sometimes, we've gone ahead and given you some space to do that in the scripting and customization. And I don't think that developers are lazy. I think that humans are lazy. And I hope that most of the developers I interact with are humans. So one of the things I've liked, our 2.0 update was almost exclusively sort of usability and security update. So I think security often gets kind of left by the, not left by the wayside, but really difficult to manage in an environment where you're busy and things are changing constantly. So we've built in some security controls, including user management, which kind of makes it difficult to screw things up. But I'm going to step back and explain why we made a cool, weird open source platform. So we've got a legacy product, which is a Salesforce product, which is really great if you're super into Salesforce. And because I work for them, I'm going to pretend to be super into Salesforce. But we were having a problem where we were getting asked to spin up a bunch of small apps internally. And the first time, hey, team, can you make a thing that does this thing? Yeah, cool. Get together all of the different data sets you're going to need, and go ahead and write an API, connect them all together. Of course, there's some back and forth for integration and testing, which is, at this stage, fairly civil. You've got your data set set up. They're all fairly new. You feel really good about them. Has anybody, you can raise your hand real small. The camera can't see you. Has anybody ever sort of lost a data set on ongoing projects that last years and years? Everybody else is lying. None of you have woken up one day and be like, oh God, we had that database the whole time. Okay, I feel a bit bad now. So app number 1, that's fine. We built that, we tested it, we got it done, everything's fine. Took a nap. Hey, can you build a second app? Well, yeah, I imagine that's our job. Let's go ahead and write an API and connect that up to the data sources. Oh God, we found this database over here. Oh, this database over here has changed. Oh, our external services are all weird and everything's changed. So we had a little bit of extra time fiddling. Well, it's got to work with this app, and that's changed, and I'm making a sincere effort not to swear, which is not at all how this process worked. That's fine. We have the second app done. Everybody's a little bit pissed off, but mostly fine. Hey, can you guys do a third app? Yeah. We just need to make sure that that works with all of the data sets. Okay, cool. Some of those has changed. Thank you very much for changing those. But also has to sort of fit around the, God damn it. Hey, can you do a fourth app? And this continued to scale in a way that kept things a little bit less civil than we wanted to. And we started using a term internally called API spaghetti. Just going back, this weird, angry layer of tangled, complex APIs we had written. This layer of complexity kind of broke our little hearts. We wanted to build cool, weird things, but we were spending more and more time in testing and integration. So, hey, can you build this thing that does this? No, go away. And we found that API spaghetti had some problems. You know what? It was so expensive to start something new. So the idea that we would have to go through and figure out what we had done 2 years, 3 years, 5 years before, because we had totally documented it very, very cleanly and commented all our code. But there was still some unpicking to do. And new projects took forever. It was crushing to have to spend all of this time doing, I guess, the boring stuff, the testing and integration and sorting it out. Actually keeping the data secure when there were all of these different things going on took so much time and willpower. The big one was we were really, really hesitant about jumping into new things. You'd get really excited, be like, hey, I've got an idea, but we would have to go back into that jungle of API madness. No, thank you. And everybody was just a little bit pissed off at the whole thing. We had a lot of cool things going on, but it was really not making us especially happy. So we got together and had several polite arguments about how to fix it. So we said, okay, well, we could use some API creation tools. We could make our APIs faster. No, Jess, that's stupid. You're just going to speed up us being pissed off. We can get some API management tools, and did do this for a while. API management tools are pretty great, but it didn't solve that weird, angry, tangled mess. And we were still writing the damn things. And mobile device management was really, really cool as well, but didn't really solve the core issue we wanted to address. And we sat down, and we were rethinking things, and that one of these words on this slide might be a lie. There were some discussions, and we're still working on the legacy product. DreamFactory is not a thing. And we were looking at what the big problem was. And we said, well, we've been looking at these apps as the problem the whole time. We're really hacked off about app number 12. But it's not about the apps. It's really about us looking at the data. And we took, very, very classically, a whiteboard eraser to the whole middle of it and said, okay, what if we can just make a thing that sits in the middle and magically works for us? If we could take a platform and have that connect up to all our data sources and have that automatically generate the APIs so that when something changes, you don't have to go back to app number 3 that you built back in the late 90s. You could just say, hey, this is what the API is doing now. And we thought this would work really well, because you could say, well, do you know what? We could just generate those APIs for new projects. we're still going to need to write some APIs, so let's go ahead and make it so we can customize it when we need to. Who here is a front-end developer? Wait, who here is a front-end developer who really likes to do back-end stuff? There, Cool, wait, hands up one more time. We can probably not be friends because we have nothing in common. It sort of let folks who want to do front-end stuff focus on the stuff that did not crush our souls. Let us decouple client-side from server-side, and God, the flexibility. And the flexibility with data sources to say, do you know what? This database we've been playing with has been really pissing us off for ages. Or, as has happened to none of you, oh, we found this database full of very valuable things. Let's just plug that in. For a long time, I worked in documentation. Who here is amazing at writing documentation all the time? We have at least 2 liars in the audience, or folks after my own heart. So went ahead and got documentation built in. And for me, the scalability is really, really cool. Who's doing big enterprise stuff? Cool. Scalability is really good for y'all, but everybody else, I quite like the portability, just to say I'm tired of working on, I can't talk smack about anybody in particular, but say I'm tired of this cloud provider, just take it over there. So we built this cool thing, and we played with it internally, and that was fine. And we had to get back to work. But not all of us really wanted to go back to doing lots and lots of Salesforce stuff. I mean, the folks who are still on it absolutely love it. But there's a cool API thing. What are we going to do with this? So we just sort of open sourced it on an Apache license, just sort of kicked it out there. Say, hey, do whatever you want to do. And got a bunch of people coming back, building cool, weird things. So one of the challenging parts of working with DreamFactory is when you explain the whole, oh, it's a platform that lets you generate APIs. Oh, okay, like parse, which was a lot more flattering before parse did that. Not quite. It's self-hosted, so if all of us get hit by buses or attacked by regional wildlife tomorrow, it should be fine. But we send it out in the world, and the really challenging part is that means that when someone builds something self-hosted, we don't really hear about it. It takes a while. So we kick that out into the world of open source, and we started to get people coming back really, really slowly saying, like, I actually built this weird thing. Did you see this? And front-end developers were doing quite a bit of this. They said, you know what? I hate the back end, which at least 6 of you don't. The ability to sort of couple and decouple things really quickly and access to data sources. We got this back with people coming back with insane projects they had built for the front end. So we thought, okay, that's really cool. We built this open source thing that's really valuable for front end people. And back end folks came back and said, well, a couple of us are using this too. Of course, we still write our own APIs. We're fabulous, we're glorious, we're brilliant, we're gods among men. But found that the documentation was really, really powerful. Not everybody who likes to write APIs likes to document them well. The customizable behavior was, well, pretty good. And the security was, bitchin' isn't swearing, is it? I'm trying real hard not to swear, and y'all don't make it easy. And this one's a difficult one, because I've only recently gotten to the point in my career where I'm willing to admit what I don't know. I have very little idea what these people actually do. Generally sure it's magic, but they came back and told us, oh, we're using this for things in our day-to-day magic. And that worked really well. We said, okay, I suppose we should probably do this for a while. We should probably focus on just doing DreamFactory. We should make this our core product. So I've taken you on a long, boring, uninteresting, hey, we built a thing, here's why. Let's get back to what it does. So I'm also very shameless about trying to say Internet of Things too much and watching people sort of recoil gently. Y'all seem lovely, and I'm super jet lagged, so I'm going to leave it for today. The one thing I thought was really, really cool, and we really didn't look at enough, was the ability to wrap up external services into RESTful services. So the ability to APIify your APIs, which I was mostly doing for fun because I'm a geek. I was like, hey, I'm going to connect a bunch of APIs and turn it into a single REST API. Yes, Jess, go away. But internally, somebody came by and said, hey, that over there, that's dumb. I don't know what she's doing. But let's go ahead and make a thing that just automatically wraps your SOAP services into REST services. And I suppose that's good if you want all of the things you're doing in-house to be useful and interesting. If you don't want them to be useful and interesting, you just wrap up external services for funsies. To use it, it's a free and open source package. Take a wild guess, most people here are PHP people? Dead on today. So yeah, built-in PHP for 1.9. We rebuilt that in Laravel. I don't do much Laravel myself, but I'm super in love with the community. So if you want a really, really good way to have a play with it, come and mess with our code on GitHub. I'll say now, if you manage to break anything, pop me an email. I don't really have cash for bug bounties, but I do have some pretty cool custom t-shirts, which are just like, I managed to break it and ruin Jesse's day. You can run it on Linux, Windows, and macOS. And you could just host it yourself. You could do whatever you want with it. I don't care. The thing I really, really like about bringing it to demo on the road is we've got a free hosted developer environment. So you could just go to dreamfactory.com, and we've got a happy little GUI where you can play with it. But I swear to God, if any of you put the free hosted into development, I will personally fly back here, all 150 hours of it, and show up at your place of work or home and just shake you gently. Free hosted is it's generally very reliable, but it's going to go down every now and again, mostly, I don't know, midnight on a Sunday. And if you've got that in production, you're going to be pissed off. You're going to be a bit pissed off at me, and I'm not going to be gently sympathetic because I'm getting on a plane to come shake you. If you want to download and install it yourself, is awesome. Just grab any of these, automatically installs. I quite like. It's difficult because you don't want to say like, oh, I like these folks and not that. Everyone is completely lovely. I quite like the Bitnami installer just because it's got MongoDB and, wrapped in it. It's quite easy. Demo time. We're going to go super, super slow and super, super cheerful and just have a bash around in the free hosted. If you want an actual proper Jess not dead on our feet demo, pop me an email and we could do one-to-one demos and it's quite a bit easier. If you want to tune out through me trying desperately to live demo, it's mostly this, but without all of the orange. Oh, that's not ideal. Hang on just a second. With the video, you can edit out the faces I'm making, yeah? Sorry, it's going to be a long, savage couple of minutes. No, it's nothing wrong with your system. It's just my computer being an old lady. I was very proud to get the first the first metal body Mac that came out. But she's coming on around 10 years old now? No. Have you seen this sticker? I'm just gonna, yeah, I'm fairly sure this laptop will outlive me. Especially if I keep getting on planes. Cool. Does that look like a thing? That looks like a thing. And this may result in me fussing at you guys for all being on the Wi-Fi at the same time. Cool. So I've logged into the dashboard, which is just going to be a place to hang out and hold on to all your instances. Of course, all of it's all free, but everybody at the same time, what must you never do with free hosted? Put it, or I will go to jail. I will come here and I will shake you and I will go to jail. So I've just put together a completely empty instance, almost nothing going on in here. When you set up an instance, you're going to have the chance to put designate somebody as an admin. Generally speaking, is always going to be you. And the reason I actually got started with DreamFactory is it's actually quite good for hackathons. I hate to keep saying lazy, knowing that work is likely to see this video. But yeah, if you've got very limited time, it's a great way to create a backend. Cool. If anyone wants to try out DreamFactory on your own, the quick start's probably going to be where you want to hang out. There's a bunch of very, very easy to install sample apps. The sample apps are very exciting, very dynamic. It's stuff nobody's ever tried before as a sample app. It's an address book. So it's just a little bit more complex than Hello World, but it feels very much like first semester computer science. The native examples are pretty cool, lots of JavaScript stuff. If you ever get stuck, coming over to resources is a really great way to do things. Our support are some guys out in Atlanta who are absolute sweethearts. So if you do manage to have any problems while you're frustrated, you do get to hang out, like have a chat with Drew and Matt. So if you ever have to contact support, please add, Jess says she loves you guys, could you fix this? And if you say, do you know what, I don't want to deal with this in the free hosted, the GUI's very, very cute, I love your design, but I'd like it on my own. Here's where you can go ahead and install it on your own. Unless you're one of the 3 people who said that you're working on massive enterprise projects, you probably won't have to fuss with DreamFactory Enterprise. That's the one that costs money, but gives you sort of some extra opportunities to scale things. So let's get into what things actually do. The apps is kind of, everybody here, who here is still a student or still learning? Oh, cool. Who here is, actually, let's go for the positive ones. Who here is super comfortable using APIs? Yay, APIs. Okay, sort of 50-50. This is going to be the place all of your API keys live. So apps is just a really, stop tweeting, please, everyone. Apps is going to be a place where every time you build a new application, import a new application, it's going to collect all of your API keys here for really, really easy storage. To create a new one, you're just going to pop up to the very, very creatively named create. Name it. Oh, God, Jess looks terrible up there. Preach. And we'll talk about it a little bit more in more detail, but so just go ahead, give it an application name, give it a description, let it know that you want to go ahead and make that API key. And one thing I really like is tell us where it's going to live. Is it a native app? It lives out there on somebody else's computer? Great. And assigning a default role. One of the things I like best about DreamFactory is the opportunity to set roles in the system. So who here has ever made an API for internal or external purposes and go ahead and turn that loose, and then people were using it to destroy things in ways you've never thought of? Oh, good, good, good. With this, you've got the ability to set different user roles. So you say, hey, everybody picks on marketing, so I'm going to say sales. You know what? Sales has access to this. God damn it, sales, how have you been deleting everything? I swear to God, I'll find you. There's been a lot more threats than I usually have in my talks. I'm really sorry. You've got the opportunity to go into the system and say, do you know what? Sales no longer has the ability to delete anything. And you do that and set it across all of your apps at once. So it's a really, really great way of saying, we're going to fix everything at once, ideally before your bosses notice. And that's something you do over here in the roles section. So you can create a role, sales. Yeah, just go ahead and create them, and then you can manage them and say, you know, what are you able to do? Are you able to put things together? Are you able to delete things? It's a really, really nice way of trying to keep people, trying really hard not to swear, trying to keep everybody able to do the minimal amount of damage. Hey, I think you can all guess what word I really wanted to use. Coming back to apps, if you did want to test it out, I usually recommend people try a sample app because it's roughly 3 minutes of sort of fluffiness, and then you can see whether or not it suits. It's just going ahead and clicking on things to import the sample apps. Hey. Oh, if you give me an error message, I will murder everyone. That never happened. Y'all can edit that out of the video, right? Yeah, so that worked beautifully and perfectly, and I'm not going to go step into the hallway and have a word. And you can go ahead and group your applications together and say, do you know what? When we're looking at roles and when we're looking at management, we think the first, on that horrible spaghetti chart filled with rage, apps 1 and 2 really do the same kinds of things. We're going to put them in the same group and give them the same kind of APIs to play with. And I've been warned that I have just a couple minutes. Sorry, I just thought I'd play with the free hosted until my time ran out and then huddle in a ball in the back. While I still have time, services is kind of the most important thing. Probably the APIs are the most important thing, but after that. We go ahead and bundle quite a bit in with it to start with. So all of these are live APIs ready to use now. And depending on how you get it, so if you grab it through Bitnami, you'll have things like MongoDB installed, which is pretty good to go. I've got just 2 minutes. So I'm just going to do my absolute favorite thing. Is anybody here primarily working with documentation, sort of technical writers or other saviors of developers? A couple of so-sos. If anybody works with a documentarian, you should probably go and bring them a fruit basket, or just swear as earnestly as possible that you will totally read the docs from now on. I'm pretty sure you all weren't snickering at that, because with any of the APIs that come bundled, you've got a really, really cool opportunity to just look at what everything does. Say, do you know what, we've built an API, what is it doing? And with SQL databases, it'll automatically generate, I think, 42 of these, and NoSQL just a few more. But because we wanted to make sure that everybody was actually looking at the documentation, we've gone ahead and built in a little explorer so you can add in parameters, have a play with it. Yeah, let's get an empty list out of this. And the thing I like right here is, so we've got quite a bit of the details, but you're able to go, where am I able to go, Jess? And go ahead and see what that's going to look like when you output actual data instead of empty data, like somebody who's had a very long day. I think I'm coming up on there being no time whatsoever. So I'm going to, again, apologize for being incredibly grumpy and threatening you all at multiple points. But to reiterate, free hosted, eh? Thank you very, very much for all of your time, and mostly your incredible mercy. Thanks, lovely.